On October 7, 2025, Taylor Swift was trembling in the bathroom of Travis Kelce's Kansas City house when the pregnancy test revealed 2 pink lines. Travis stood behind her, staring at the plastic stick that was about to change everything, his 6'5" physique suddenly feeling little. His voice cracked in a manner it never did on the football field as he murmured, "Is that are we?" With tears welling up in her eyes, Taylor turned to face him and nodded. They stood motionless for precisely 17 seconds. In the most intimate moment of their lives, 2 individuals who had dedicated their entire careers to performing for millions of people were both afraid and ecstatic. With his face buried in her hair, Travis drew her into his arms and uttered the words that had been on his mind for months. "I will become a father." As they hugged each other in that marble bathroom, neither of them realized that their most intimate moment would soon turn into the most well-known controversy in history. And it all began with a predator who had been spying on Travis's home every morning for the previous 2 weeks. You must realize how meticulously Taylor Swift organizes every facet of her personal life, so allow me to take a moment to clarify. 3 days prior, on October 4th, Taylor was at Travis's Kansas City home. Worn out after the emotional roller coaster of wrapping off the Eras tour in August and attempting to get used to a life without performing in front of 80,000 people every night. For the past 2 weeks or so, she had been experiencing strange symptoms, including nausea in the morning, exhaustion by mid-afternoon, and a delayed menstrual cycle that hadn't occurred since she was a teenager. Taylor was aware of the possible significance of these symptoms. However, she was not the type of person who could simply rush to a pharmacy on her own. She therefore called Meredith, her personal assistant who was back in Nashville, and instructed her to covertly buy multiple pregnancy tests from various pharmacies in Nashville. Package them in a plain Amazon box with some fake items like vitamins and skincare products, and send them to Travis's Kansas City address via private courier service. In order to ensure there was no digital payment trail, Meredith used cash at 3 different Walgreens locations while donning sunglasses and a baseball cap. Taylor had concealed the item in Travis's guest bathroom when it came on October 6th, waiting for the ideal opportunity to have the courage to discover the truth. That moment occurred early on October 7th, while Taylor was alone himself at his residence, and Travis was at a light practice. After completing all 3 tests, she received positive results in a matter of minutes. Her mind was running through 1,000 ideas at once as she sat on the bathroom floor, gazing at the 3 plastic sticks arranged on the marble counter. When Travis arrived home at 2:30 that afternoon, she had placed the tests on his bed in a little gift box with a message that read, "Surprise." His response, the tears in his eyes, the way he'd held her as though she were glass. Everything had been flawless. Talking about what this meant, when to notify their families, and how they would finally share the news with the world on their own terms. They had spent the remainder of the afternoon in a state of astonishment and delight. Already considering the 3 pregnancy tests to be priceless mementos, Travis had carefully wrapped them in tissue paper and put them in his nightstand drawer. Then at around 7:00 p.m., he packed everything, including the gift box, instruction sheets, and packaging, into a black garbage bag and carried it out to his side yard trash cans. He didn't think twice about it because Tuesday was his neighborhood's trash day, and the garbage trucks would always arrive at 10 a.m. Travis was unaware that Marcus Chen, a freelance paparazzo, had been observing his area for 2 weeks in order to learn about his habits, schedule, and, most importantly, his garbage day routine. Marcus specialized in combing through celebrity trash before collection, something most people find repulsive, but is permitted in Missouri. A-list celebrities experience this more frequently than the general public is aware. Once trash is placed on the curb, it is deemed abandoned property, allowing anybody to lawfully sift through it. Marcus had discovered that Travis typically brought his trash to the curb the night before it was picked up, providing him with an ideal window between Travis's bedtime and the garbage truck's arrival in the morning. Thus, on October 8th at 6:15 a.m., when the sun was just beginning to rise and Travis and Taylor were still asleep, Marcus arrived in his unremarkable Honda Civic, walked quietly to Travis's garbage cans at the curb, and started meticulously sifting through each bag. For 2 weeks, he had done this twice a week, but all he had discovered were food containers, football magazines, and dull domestic trash. However, Marcus's heart raced when he opened the black trash bag Travis had placed on top this morning. A tiny gift box with tissue paper and 3 pregnancy test boxes remaining in their original packaging with instruction sheets. Knowing exactly what this meant and how much money these pictures would be worth, he instantly began taking pictures with his phone, his hands trembling with adrenaline. At 6:32 a.m., an hour before the garbage truck was scheduled to come at 7:30 a.m., Marcus hurriedly packed the evidence back into the bag, placed it back in the trash can, and drove off. To pick up the garbage on time, Marcus uploaded the pictures to his agency at 9:30 a.m., along with a thorough explanation of what he had discovered and where. EMZ paid $25,000 for the exclusive rights to the images by 11:00 a.m. Their headline went up at 11:47 a.m. Exclusive. Travis Kelce's garbage included pregnancy tests. Is Taylor Swift expecting a child? In addition to speculating on when Taylor might have taken the tests and why they were getting rid of the evidence so fast, the piece featured pictures of the test boxes, the instruction sheets, and even the tissue paper from the gift box. The tale was all over the place in less than 20 minutes. It was picked up by Entertainment Tonight, People Magazine, E! News, and all the major media. With 8 million tweets, the hashtag #DonnerTaylorPregnancy was trending globally. Every picture of Taylor from the previous month was being analyzed by fan accounts in an attempt to spot any indications of a baby bump. The potential impact of this on Travis's performance for the remainder of the season was being discussed by sports networks. Taylor and Travis were both still asleep in Travis's bedroom, fatigued from an emotional day and night of processing their news, so they were unaware that the entire internet had burst into speculation. At 12:03 p.m., Travis's phone began to ring, and he went for it drowsily, thinking it may be a call from Jason or his mother. Rather, he noticed 34 missed calls from his family, teammates, coach, agent, and publicist. His phone rang again before he could even comprehend what was going on, and this time he picked it up. The voice of his publicist sounded desperate. "Where are you, Travis? Are you and Taylor together? Now is the time to call her publicist. Pregnancy tests found in your trash have been photographed by TMZ, and the tale is widely circulated. Everywhere, that is. This will not go away. Therefore, you must decide immediately whether to confirm or deny." Travis had the impression that a linebacker had struck him at full speed. "What? How?" "We kept it a secret. I have the tests on my bedside table." In what way could they? Then it dawned on him. The trash. The garbage he had carelessly removed last night. The garbage that was left out on the curb all night long, open to anyone who wished to search it. He turned to see Taylor getting up and grabbing her own phone, and he saw firsthand how her expression changed from drowsy bewilderment to sheer terror when her own screen began to fill with alerts. The following 6 hours were an absolute nightmare. In an attempt to determine how to address the problem, Taylor's entire staff was on emergency conference calls. Every media outlet in the world was contacting Travis's publicist. Confused and anxious, their families called to inquire about the veracity of the news. Reporters attacked Donna Kelce outside her home. News vans were parked on the street of Andrea Swift's Nashville residence. During his own radio show, Jason Kelce was being questioned about it, and he had to uncomfortably sidestep questions without confirming or refuting anything. And because there were now about 60 paparazzi stationed outside his gates, some with telescopic lenses aiming at every window, and others with drones attempting to capture overhead images of the backyard, Taylor and Travis were stuck inside his house and unable to escape. With her arms encircling herself and a pale face filled with rage and violation, Taylor was pacing Travis's living room. "They went through our garbage," she repeated, trembling. "How is that legal? How is any of this legal?" Travis had never felt more powerless in his life. "They went through our actual garbage while we were sleeping, and found the most private thing in our lives, and sold it for money." He was accustomed to finding solutions and defending those he cared about, but because this violation of privacy had already occurred, there was no way to shield Taylor. The harm had already been done. By 3:00 p.m., They both realized that they needed to see a doctor very away, not only for confirmation, but also because Taylor's stress level couldn't be healthy for her or a possible fetus. After learning about the TMZ story, Taylor's Los Angeles physician, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, personally contacted to express concern for her health and provide advice. Dr. Mitchell kindly said, "Taylor, I know this is violating and overwhelming, but you need to get proper medical confirmation as soon as possible, over the phone. Home pregnancy tests can be inaccurate, and with the entire world watching, you need definitive answers before you make any public statements. I have a colleague at St. Luke's Hospital in Kansas City, Dr. Rebecca Torres, who's willing to see you after hours tonight to avoid media attention." Travis's security team spent 2 hours coordinating with Taylor's team to plan a route to the hospital that would avoid the paparazzi. They arranged for decoy cars, used a private entrance at the hospital's parking garage, and even had Jason post a family photo on Instagram to create a distraction and make everyone think Taylor and Travis might be in Philadelphia instead of Kansas City. At 7:30 p.m., they executed the plan, and somehow, miraculously, they made it to St. Luke's Hospital without being followed. Dr. Rebecca Torres was waiting for them in a private examination room, a warm woman in her 50s who'd seen every possible reaction to pregnancy news, but had never had to deliver it under these circumstances. She started with a physical exam and questions about Taylor's symptoms, her cycle, her stress levels. "Your body has been through incredible physical demand over the past 2 years with the ERA's tour," Dr. Torres explained, as she prepared Taylor for a transvaginal ultrasound. 149 shows, 3+ hours of dancing every night, constant travel across time zones, irregular sleep. Your hormones are trying to recalibrate, and that can affect everything. The ultrasound room was cold and dimly lit. Travis sat beside the examination table, his hand holding Taylor's, both of them staring at the black and white screen that would tell them if their lives were about to change forever. Dr. Torres moved the ultrasound wand carefully, her eyes studying the images with professional focus. The silence in the room was deafening. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 4 minutes, Dr. Torres set down the wand and turned to face them, and Travis knew from her expression that something was wrong. "I'm not seeing a gestational sac," Dr. Torres said quietly. "At 5 to 6 weeks, which is where you'd be based on your dates, we would expect to see something on the ultrasound." Taylor's voice was barely above a whisper. "What does that mean?" The doctor pulled her stool closer. "It means we need to run blood work to measure your HCG levels, the pregnancy hormone. That will give us definitive answers. I'm drawing the blood now, and I've marked it as urgent, so we should have results in about 30 minutes. Those 30 minutes felt like 30 hours. Taylor sat in the examination room, still in her hospital gown, staring at the blank ultrasound screen. Travis paced the small room like a caged animal, his mind racing through every possibility. Neither of them spoke because there was nothing to say that wouldn't make it worse. When Dr. Torres finally returned with the lab results on her tablet, she sat down across from them and delivered the news that would break them both. "Your HCG level is at 3.88. A normal pregnancy at 5 to 6 weeks would show levels between 1,000 and 50,000. A level under 5 is considered negative. Taylor, you're not pregnant. The home tests gave you false positive results." The words didn't make sense at first. Taylor heard herself asking questions that sounded like they were coming from someone else's mouth. "Could it be too early? Could we test again in a few days?" Dr. Torres shook her head gently. "Combined with the ultrasound and these HCG levels, I can tell you with certainty that you're not pregnant. False positives can happen for several reasons, and in your case, it's most likely due to the extreme physical and emotional stress your body has experienced. Your adrenal system is exhausted, your cortisol levels are significantly elevated, and your hormones are in a state of flux as your body tries to recover from the tour. This can absolutely cause the symptoms you've been experiencing, the late period, and even trigger a false positive on home pregnancy tests." She went on to explain that Taylor's body had essentially been in survival mode for 2 years, and now that the tour was over, it was trying to reset itself, which was causing hormonal chaos. "You need rest, stress management, and time for your body to heal," Dr. Torres said. I'm also recommending some supplements and possibly working with an endocrinologist to help regulate your hormones. The drive back to Travis's house was silent, except for the sound of Taylor crying. Not the loud, dramatic crying of someone in acute pain, but the quiet, exhausted crying of someone who has nothing left. Travis didn't know what to say, didn't know how to fix this, didn't know how to make any of it better. When they pulled into his garage and the door closed behind them, shutting out the paparazzi who were still there at 9:30 at night, Taylor finally spoke. "Ogo, I was going to be a mom," she said, her voice hollow. "I thought about names and whether they'd have your eyes. I pictured me singing to them while holding them. And now I have to grieve something that never existed, and the whole world watched me do it, because someone went through our trash while we were sleeping." Travis felt his own tears coming, his throat so tight he could barely breathe. He pulled Taylor into his arms right there in the car and held her while she sobbed. And he let himself cry too, for the loss of something they'd barely had time to want, but had already started to love. But here's the part that nobody talks about when celebrity privacy is violated this way. The aftermath isn't just emotional, it's logistical hell. When they finally walked into Travis's house, they discovered that while they'd been at the hospital, their families had taken matters into their own hands. Donna Kelce had driven over with Jason, his wife Kylie, and their daughters. Andrea Swift had caught an emergency flight from Nashville. The two mothers had let themselves in with Travis's spare key, and they'd spent the evening cooking comfort food and trying to distract themselves with the girls. When Taylor and Travis walked through the door, everyone looked up with worried faces. Not celebratory ones, because by this point, the family group chat had been going for hours, and they all knew something was wrong. Donna had even received a call from Dr. Torres's office confirming that Taylor and Travis had been there, and maternal instinct told her that if they'd needed emergency medical attention, the news probably wasn't good. Little Wyatt was wearing a big cousin button that Kylie had made earlier in the day, when they'd still thought this was happy news. And when Taylor saw it, she broke down completely. "I'm not pregnant," she said, looking at all of them. These people who'd already started celebrating, who'd already started planning, who'd already fallen in love with the idea of a baby. The tests were wrong. No infant is present. There never was. The silence was deafening. Andrea crossed the room and pulled her daughter into her arms. Donna joined them, and suddenly Taylor was being held by both mothers, all three of them crying. Jason had to step outside because he couldn't handle watching his little brother's heart break. Kylie quietly removed Wyatt's big cousin button and ushered the girls into another room, trying to protect their innocence from the adult grief filling the house. Travis stood there feeling useless, his hands clenched into fists at his sides, wanting to hit something, to fight something, to protect Taylor from this pain, but having absolutely no way to do it. That night, after everyone had gone home and promised to check in tomorrow, after Travis and Taylor had finally collapsed into his bed, emotionally and physically exhausted, Taylor said something that Travis would never forget. "Tomorrow, the whole world is going to want answers. They're going to want to know if I was pregnant, if I miscarried, what happened, and I have to decide if I owe them an explanation for something they never should have known about in the first place." Travis pulled her closer, his voice rough when he spoke. "You don't owe them anything. Not after what they did. They violated us in the worst possible way." But they both knew that staying silent wasn't really an option. The speculation would destroy. Them both would follow them everywhere, would turn into cruel rumors and invasive questions for months or years. So the next morning, October 9th, Taylor spent 3 hours crafting a statement with her publicist, writing and deleting and rewriting, until she had something that felt honest without being too vulnerable, something that would end the speculation without giving the vultures everything they wanted. At 2:47 p.m., Taylor Swift posted to her Instagram a simple black background with white text. "I've always tried to be honest with you, so I want to address what happened. I am not pregnant. I took home pregnancy tests that showed false positive results, which can happen due to hormonal stress and other medical factors. I went to a doctor who confirmed I am not pregnant. To everyone who sent love and congratulations, thank you. To the person who went through private trash and sold something deeply personal for money, I hope it was worth it. To the media outlets who chose to publish it, I hope you're proud. To Travis, I love you. We're okay, we'll be okay. The post got 2 million likes in the first hour. The comment section exploded with a mix of supportive messages and cruel speculation. Some people accused her of lying. Others claimed she must have miscarried and was covering it up. The trolls came out in force, making jokes about false positives and suggesting she'd made it all up for attention. But there were also millions of supportive comments from people who'd experienced similar losses, from women who'd had false positives, from anyone who'd ever had their privacy violated in ways big or small. Taylor didn't read any of it. She'd handed her phone to Travis and asked him to keep it away from her for at least a week. Travis ended up missing Sunday's game against the Raiders, the first non-injury absence of his career. Coach Reed didn't question it, just pulled him into a hug and told him that family and mental health came first always. The Chiefs won without him, 28-18, and Travis watched from his couch with Taylor curled against his side, both of them trying to find normal again in a life that felt permanently altered. Over the next 3 weeks, something shifted in both of them. The media storm slowly died down as new celebrity drama emerged to capture attention. Travis went back to football and had one of the best games of his season, channeling all his anger and pain into his performance. Taylor started working with a therapist who specialized in trauma and privacy violation, processing not just the false pregnancy, but the years of having her private life treated as public property. Donna and Andrea became even closer, bonding over their shared instinct to protect their kids, while also knowing they couldn't fix this kind of pain. Jason called Travis every single day, sometimes just to talk about nothing. Normal brother stuff that reminded Travis that life continued even when it felt like everything had stopped. And slowly, painfully, Taylor and Travis began to heal from the loss of something that had never quite existed, but had felt absolutely real to them both. Now let me pause here and ask you something important. Have you ever had your privacy violated in a way that felt like a physical assault? Have you ever lost something that technically never existed, but felt completely real to your heart? Drop a comment below about times when you've had to grieve, hope, or deal with invasions of privacy. Because this story is unfortunately more common than we think. And maybe by sharing our experiences, we can help each other feel less alone in these moments. 4 weeks after everything happened, on a cool November evening, Travis and Taylor went for a walk around his neighborhood after dark when the paparazzi had given up for the night. They walked hand in hand through the quiet streets and Taylor finally broke the silence they'd been carrying. I've been thinking about what the doctor said about my body being in survival mode for 2 years, she said quietly, and I realized she was right. I've been so focused on performing and being perfect and giving everything to everyone else that I forgot to take care of myself. Maybe my body was trying to tell me something. Travis squeezed her hand. What was it trying to tell you? Taylor stopped walking and turned to face him. That I'm not ready. That we're not ready. You've got at least 5 more years of football. I've got 3 more albums planned and we've only been together a year and a half. We have time. We have so much time. Travis pulled her close, his voice rough with emotion when he spoke. When I thought you were pregnant, I wasn't scared because I didn't want it. I was afraid because I didn't know whether I could be good enough, and I wanted it so much. But I know now that when the time is right, when it's really real and happening, on our terms without the world watching, we're going to be more than okay. Taylor grinned for the first time in weeks. Travis kissed her forehead. Now we live our lives. I play football, you make music. We love each other and we let the future happen when it's supposed to happen. And when we do decide we're ready, we're getting a medical grade shredder for all pregnancy test packaging. And we're keeping our trash inside until the very last second before pickup, she said. Blood will only be used from here on until eternity. They made their way home in the dark. 2 individuals who had discovered that often the most difficult losses are those that the outside world makes you share before you're ready. And sometimes, the strongest love is the one that chooses to believe in the future, despite being disappointed, violated, and having false hopes. This is the reality that both Travis and Taylor took away from this encounter. Even the wealthiest and most well-known persons can't always afford the luxury of privacy in today's world. All of the rubbish is up for grabs. Every private moment has the potential to become public property. Every false positive has the potential to make headlines. However, what the tabloids, gossip websites, and paparazzi will never get is that the violation itself forges a connection between those who survive it together. After this event, Travis and Taylor were stronger rather than weaker, more devoted rather than less in love, and more certain that what they had was worth defending at any costs. One of the first things Travis said after asking, "Will you marry me?" was, "And I promise whatever comes next for us, whatever family we build, we do it on our terms, in our time, with our privacy intact as much as humanly possible." Taylor accepted his proposal 3 months later on a private beach in Mexico, where there were no cameras or paparazzi present, and only her mother and his mother were present. This is what I would like to know from you. Have you ever suffered a loss that everyone wanted to witness? Have you ever had to grieve in public when you preferred to grieve in private? Have you ever had someone tell a story about your trash, either literally or figuratively? Too many individuals experience Taylor and Travis's story in various ways, so please share your ideas in the comments. Perhaps by discussing it, we might alter our perceptions of loss, privacy, and the cost of celebrity. Please hit the like button and subscribe if this story touched you or changed your perspective on celebrity privacy and the price of living in the spotlight. We'll be sharing more candid tales about the personal suffering that goes on behind public personas. And if you know of someone who needs to hear that it's acceptable to grieve hope, even if it never materializes, please share this video with them. Even if the invasion of your privacy was lawful, it's acceptable to be upset about it, because sometimes the things we've lost hurt just as deeply as the things we nearly had. Additionally, the loss itself may not always be as painful as the invasion of privacy.